All right, everybody, thank you for being here this evening. This is your first time at the District Advisory Board meeting. We meet first Monday of every month. There's an option for you to view online each Monday. District Advisory Board is a unique component of Wichita City government and from other cities around the US where instead of just having like a zoning board where zoning cases go through, we also have a citizen board made up of folks from around the district and different backgrounds. And we also give recommendations on a number of policy issues and feedback to the various city departments. And in large part trying to represent the neighborhoods we're coming from and giving feedback to the council member as well. So you're always welcome. And if you are here for a zoning, the zoning case that's coming up, conditional use case, there'll be an opportunity to speak during that. And if you just have general public comment, there'll be an opportunity off agenda to speak to that later in the meeting. So thank you for being here. First off, we'd like to, without objection, approve the agenda for March 4th, 2024. Are there any objections or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to the minutes for February 5th, 2024. Are there any corrections, edits, or comments for these minutes? Hearing none, without objection, we'll approve the minutes for February 5th, 2024. Hearing no objections, those minutes are approved, and we'll move to the staff reports, starting off with the Wichita Fire Department.
Don't see anyone online. They did provide a written report, which should be in your agenda packet, and I will also include it in a minute.
Is police on?
Please, I do see Officer Stark on.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move to them.
Good evening. Hope everybody's enjoying the weather. It's Officer Stark, Patrol North Community Policing Unit. I'll go over a few things with you guys today. Stat related, everything is looking good in District 1. We don't have any concerning outliers, Part 1 offenses. We have an uptick in ag assaults, it's up 28%, but that's driven from domestic related incidents. So nothing out of the control of between two people fighting. The other thing that's up is we have an uptick in larcenies from autos. As it starts to warm up, that will also generate more and more larceny autos. So we're preaching to everybody to make sure they take all their belongings in, lock their doors up, don't leave anything in the car. A lot of this gun violence that's occurring across the city are from firearms that have been stolen. They're either stolen out of vehicles or stolen out of cars, primarily cars. So we're making sure that we tell everybody either have a locks in your car, even if you're running into the store, and then also take it out at night when you go in. Don't just leave it in your car. It goes for anybody. Stuff coming up. I know Metcalf last month mentioned the Facebook pages. We ran into a kink trying to get those started. So those are coming probably in the next couple weeks, and we'll make sure everybody has what that Facebook is going to look like. And then we can start getting announcements out to everybody, promoting different events that's happening on each bureau. We want to remind everybody ICT Open Street 17th Street is April 14th, 2024. I want everybody to come out and enjoy that event. A lot of vendors will be out there, so it's a good time to get out in your community, and hopefully there'll be some pretty good weather. We have a city crew event called Spring Fever this Saturday, March 9th from 10 to 12. That's at Orchard Rec. So if you have any grandkids or kids, get them signed up for City Crew. It's a free event every month at a different rec center, and they have different activities to do. And we're trying to grow the numbers for that, so make sure you let everybody know. We just had a successful polar plunge. The Wichita Police Department, county, Mays, all participated. Unique this year is that we had our 34 recruits that are in this current class came out and also got in. And so that brings me to the next point. We will have some promotions coming. We're still shorthanded. The 30 that just came out of the last class are still in FTO. They'll be graduating in the next 3 weeks. And then we will have this next round of 34. And we've already started getting people in the next class. So help is coming. It's just taking some time. So that's all I have on my side if anybody has any questions.
Staff members for the police department.
I have a question. What are the hours of operation for the North-South Station?
Are you talking about to come in and make a report or something like that?
Yes.
It's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and they are shut down on holidays just like any city facility, but 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Any other questions, or comments from that?
So I just want to make sure I heard you correctly, that for the district, it said that that was fairly, you didn't see anything alarming in terms of.
No, so for like theft from autos, it's up 22%. But what that means is we had 58 total in the last month, and this month we had 71. And that's all from large fleet autos, and that's District 1 wide. So it's an increase of 22%, so not alarming, but it just means that it's still happening, and we still need to have people recognize that they need to lock their stuff up and take their stuff inside, because it's still happening more than it should.
And then the aggravated assault was specifically connected to domestic.
It's that uptick is driven by domestic violence. So partner relationships is what's driving that number up. We had about a 35% increase in those, so that drove the number up a little bit. Other than that, that's what's driving that number. So that's the only uptick we had on the stats this month. Everything else is down.
For District 1 overall, correct?
District 1 overall, yeah, that's all of DAB 1.
My final question is, if there are concerns regarding maybe our unhoused neighbors from the emergency winter shelter, is there a number that folks can call, or can you maybe highlight what WPD's role is in maybe de-escalating matters that may occur or situations that may seem concerning to community members? Is there a number that they can directly reach out to so that WPD can assist in any concerns?
So they can call 911 if it's an immediate concern. So if they have somebody on property that's causing problems, disturbances, obviously we have an uptick in all of that. So they can reach out. April 1st is the deadline or the closing date for that shelter. So we are in the final month of it being open, and then that all should go away up north because they'll go back where the resources are. But if they need to reach out to somebody directly, they can email me. It's probably the easiest way if they have a concern. Our role, my captain goes into a meeting every Monday to discuss what they can do, what they can address. And there are different players in that, Humankind's in that, we're in that, Sedgwick County's in that. And then we are added our presence every day since the shelter opened down in that area. So there's been one of my members on my team during the day that sits down there in the area and addresses those. Some of that stuff we can't control, but we can at least respond quicker than what the response rates are right now. And then another team member sits at night. So we're trying to monitor it. And then we're just trying to get this home stretch to get through it and get the businesses back to normal.
Thank you. I drive by about 3 times a week, and I know that, but I just think it's important for community members to know the work that you all are doing and just the de-escalation of matters strategies that are taking place as well, because sometimes the narrative gets misconstrued. So thanks so much for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
Another question, since we brought up the homeless shelter, are you guys tracking the number of calls that you've gotten since the day it opened? Just, I know there are community meetings every week, and I know the citizens are concerned that when the shelter closes, that not everybody is gonna go back downtown or wherever. And so I just know there's been some conversations about the uptick, if it was one, in
Sure.
have you been tracking it?
Yes, it's all been tracked and monitored by both us and Fire has been tracking theirs because they make all the medical calls. There wasn't a big concern before the shelter opened because the resources are not up here. Right now, that's where they stay, it's where they go back to, and that's where their food are. When that shelter closes, they're all gonna migrate back down to where the resources are, which are downtown. So our fear isn't as much as when they're here, because we no longer are bringing them up here when they need a shelter, because that shelter is no longer gonna be open. So with our concerns now with our unhoused individuals, in April, we'll just have to see how it goes, but once the shelter's closed, their resources are no longer up here. So they have no reason to be up here. So they'll probably all migrate back down to Broadway where their resources are.
I don't know if you're the right person to ask or if any of us are the right person to ask, but has there Is it gonna be funded for next year?
I do not have the answers to that question. I know, I think Humankind is working on a solution, but I don't know. They'll be the ones that direct that because that's their project and their stuff.
Thank you.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, the state stops meddling in what we're doing, we will have a permanent solution with the MAC. Because of some meddling that is now questionable. We have two potential sites for emergency shelter going forward that are not over here in First Grove, but if the state just fulfills the funding requests and follows the plans we've laid out, we'll be good to go.
When will you know more about that?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer to. I was not aware that this meddling was gonna start. So all of us are kind of hoping that it will stop so we can move forward with the plans that we have.
Legislature?
Yes.
So Councilmember Johnson, if I could follow up on that, the commitment was that the emergency winter shelter will be gone from that area after a certain date.
March 31st.
And then that building, the request for proposals for that building has already gone out, correct?
It has gone out, it has closed, and I believe the committee has made a decision.
So the commitment that the emergency winter shelter will no longer exist there is gonna be a commitment that is kept, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
What's gonna go in there?
I do not know. That recommendation hasn't come to council yet, but I do know it had closed. And I believe the recommendation had been made, so it should be before council here in the next couple weeks or so.
I was gonna ask during your open remarks, this seems relevant. Are they meddling at the CAB meeting, most recent one, we had some feedback from a person involved with the shelter, and they were worried about just the reality that there's just not getting movement from downtown to the shelter. And then the state was gonna come in and do a count, and they were gonna do a count on a day, it was gonna be the warmest day so far. Are they meddling now after that? Is that a part?
The meddling actually made the question about one of the shows and trying to persuade the property owner not to go through with the option that we paid for, to go a different route, which would force us to find a different.
Are there any questions or comments from the public for the police department?
I have a question. Officer, do you guys still have the homeless outreach team? I know you had that several years ago. Is that still a resource you provide?
Yes, they are housed out of the Patrol South Bureau. They've been assisting us quite frequently up here with this shelter, but yeah, they still housed out of the South Bureau and they still exist.
Still provide the service where if someone requests it, you'll then transport to a location to be housed at? I just wanted to double check.
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Do you still provide a service for unhoused people, where if they request it, you'll get them transported to wherever they can be housed at, if it's out of the city of Wichita in another location? I thought I heard something.
Yeah, I understand. So the homeless outreach team has funding for bus tickets and stuff to get them to family members as long as they have a situation in place that they're going back to something. We don't want to just put them on a bus and send them away and have no idea where they're going. So if they have the proper channels, like I ran into a girl last week down at the shelter, she was trying to get in touch with them. We actually sent her on a bus back to her daughter because she was clean for the last month. So as long as they have plans in place when they get there, there is funding for that through the homeless outreach team, but they're the ones that handle all of that.
Any other questions or comments, so please? Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Parker Daniel from the Wichita Public Library, and I have some updates. So from now until the 9th, we're going to have the Academy Awards Short Film Festival. There will be screenings throughout several locations in the city, and more information on that's available at wichitalibrary.org/Academy Awards. The Big Read Wichita event will kick off on March the 16th from 2 to 4 at the Advanced Learning Library. This year we will be reading There by Tommy Orange. More information on that can be found at www.bigreadwichita.org. Also, starting today, we will be providing a new service through our Library of Things service. It's pretty cool. It's these Tony boxes. It's screen-free listening devices, and each of these little book characters connects to different stories, different songs the kids can listen to. I think it's pretty cool. Next, the book bus is going to have new stops, including the Dillons at Harry and Webb and Orchard Park and the Northwest YMCA, along with others. You can find information on those stops in the schedule on wichitalibrary.org/bookbus. And then finally, please check out our website or ask any librarian about upcoming spring break programs. Thank you. Did you have any questions?
The new library cards, do you have to go in person to get those?
Yes.
Any library?
You can go to any library. If you've already had a card with us, it's $2 to replace. If not, it's free.
Have I emailed you yet?
No, you haven't.
Okay.
Oh, I'm still waiting.
Okay,
It's all right.
I got a project. I emailed Racine and I mentioned your name, and so we're gonna connect. I got a project for you.
Thank you.
We're gonna have fun.
Any other questions?
The Tony, that you just.
Oh,
showed
yes.
For the kids, they rent that or,
Yes, these check out
Like
for
a
14 days.
14 days with the library card. Thank you.
Sure.
And what about the book bus?
Information on that will be available on wichitalibrary.org/bookbus.
Okay, thank you.
Racine is our family literacy coordinator. She's wonderful.
Just thought I'd ask you to go ahead and share some of what we talked about, what you're doing for Maya Angelou.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I started at the end of November, and since then, I've had the opportunity to get out and make connections with different service providers. The thing that I've been most proud of is doing outreach visits to the emergency winter shelter. I feel like that's paved the way for us to have better interactions with our in-house patrons. It's been an opportunity for us to listen to them, to get an idea of how they're moving around the city. A lot of people didn't even know that there was a library so close to the shelter, so that's been great. And yeah, I don't know, when I went to the position, my thought was, why shouldn't we lead by helping our most vulnerable population?
Thank you for that.
Thank you, it means a lot to me.
Any other questions or comments for library?
I've got a question. So, for the last two, district breakfast, they were catered by books and breakfast and books.
Books and breakfast.
So, so they have their community breakfast, I think the second Saturday of each month. Have you connected with them at all on that?
I have connected with
Oh, okay,
Donna,
okay,
and as far as I know, youth services are collaborating with her to
Okay.
provide programs during the summer.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Oh, perfect.
Anybody else? Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Parks and Rec?
Don't think we have anyone, but they also provide a written staff report, which should be in your agenda.
And those will be in the minutes. And I see from the fire, just probably two things to share publicly was on resources. One is a reminder about smoke alarms and that you could possibly qualify for free smoke alarms. And you can call the Community Risk Reduction Division at 316-268-4441. That's 316-268-4441 for questions concerning your smoke alarms, as well as to see if you qualify for free ones. And also, I think this is important to share on public alerts within Sedgwick County. You can sign up to receive community bulletins, emergency alerts, and severe weather warnings directly in your area by signing up for email, text, or voice call notifications at sedgwickcounty.org/civic-ready. That's sedgwickcounty.org/civic-ready. So, unless there's any other comments, we'll go ahead and receive and file all these reports and move on.
I do have, actually, I don't know, it's comments, an announcement. So I have, I picked up some of the extra flyers about the smoke alarm program. Actually, these were provided by the Red Cross. If I were working, I would take one and post it up in the office, but I'm not working anymore. So, there's extra, I don't know if any of the board members want one. So it's how you can get the free alarms.
Perfect.
There you go.
And that's installed.
Yeah,
they install.
they come install them.
That's the big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna go put a few of these on the back table. so you
Oh,
folks can grab them.
okay.
And,
I got a question
yeah,
for, and probably Brandon be the one to answer that. With the budget shortfalls coming, how much is the park department affected by that?
I have a section very soon where I can answer that question.
Okay. councilmember updates. We're gonna move next to board agenda updates, issues, and reports. And we'll start with Luana.
I don't really have anything. July 20th, my organization, we will have music in the park again at McAdams. It's a free community event, and we are in the process now of looking for vendors. If you are in the health field, financial field, you can come out and get a booth for free, because we're all about giving resources to our communities. So July 20th, McAdams Park, we are in the phase now. If you're interested, just email me. I'm on Facebook, or just find me. You can find me somewhere, and I can give you information about how to join that event. We'll have bands playing, local bands, providing music. Last summer, we were doing blood pressure checks, blood glucose, COVID shots, boosters, whatever. And so it was a really good event, and we're looking to have another great event this year. And it's free to the public.
I have a community resource to share. It's called Mental Health First Aid Classes, and it's put on by ComCare. It's actually free classes open to the public. You can call ComCare to get enrolled. Pretty much it's a resource to assist in initiating conversations about mental health and teach others to understand and address mental illness and substance abuse disorders. I know they have classes coming in April and May, free to the public. Call ComCare 660-7600. Sharing that.
They also have the mental health for adults to work with children.
Yes,
And adults.
yes,
Two separate classes.
yes, that's right. Thank you.
Tuesday, March 19th is one of our first presidential primaries in Kansas in a long time. So if you aren't used to voting, it's a great way to get started. You can go to vote.org and see if you're registered. You can go through all of the steps so you're prepared. Voting matters, your voice matters.
Make sure you get your ID if you don't have it.
Yep, go ahead, would you explain what's happened?
Well, there's just some things going on at the state level in regards to your voting rights and privileges. So I just encourage everyone to have your current ID and to make sure that you are registered. If you've moved, change your last name, get registered so that your vote will count.
And additionally, right now they're matching up that your address, I think as of today, your address on your ID has to match your address. So I don't know, typically that's the last thing I update is my driver's license address if I move, right? Well, then that can get you turned away if your address doesn't match, if the address on your ID doesn't match up.
Or make it a
Correct
probationary
that
vote?
I work on the elections, and it doesn't have to match. You do have to have an ID, and if you're in the wrong location for the addresses where you moved from, to where you live at, then to, you can have a provisional ballot,
Additional.
and then you can drive over to where the polling place is for the address that is listed
Thank you.
at the poll. Also, early voting starts the 12th. So you can go, I think it runs from like 8 to 6. I think they have a schedule for that. So, you know, like they say in Chicago, vote early, vote often.
What's happening in at the state about IDs?
Oh, today, there were a lot of bills that got passed the first round, and your address is one of the issues that they talked about. If it didn't match, it passed today, but you know, it has to go through a couple more cycles. Your address starting in 2025 will have to match your ID. Your provisional ballot, again, if it doesn't match, they're gonna make you do provisional. And the other thing that, right, and then the other thing they talked about today was you mail in your ballot, right now you get 3 days for them to count it. And what passed today was that you will no longer have that grace period, but it has to go through some more cycles, but that did pass through the Senate today. But it's not a law yet, but it did pass the Senate.
So also, there's no grace period for mail-in ballots anymore. You have to have it at the election office by 7 p.m. election days, I understand it.
Yeah, that's what passed today in the Senate, but it's just to go through the House and it's just become a law, but yes.
I believe, I heard the county elections director mention that. That should
Yes,
apply for
Laura.
this.
Laura
That's
said we're
applying now.
doing that this year.
Yeah, at least that's what she said at a recent meeting where she presented. That would be in effect now.
Yeah, that's
The
what I was
the
told
mail-in
last-
ballots have to be at the courthouse
Right.
on the day of the election. But previously you had it was a 3-day lag time.
Not-
And if you're worried about it, you have a ballot, take it to the voting area and you can drop that off there and
It will
we'll
be
accept that.
And she is looking at expanding drop-off locations going forward. Because they received, I know, they received additional HVAC funding that should allow them going forward to have additional sites and be able to still work within the state law with security requirements. So that's what she's hoping is with that, they'll have additional drop-offs beyond just.
I'll review my commercial for Proud of Wichita, which is Wichita's LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. So if you are interested in patronizing or sorry, don't patronize. Or you would like to become a member of said chamber, there's a lot of exciting opportunities. Also, we're gonna have Pride at Napier Park again here in June. So if anybody is interested in sponsoring said event, you can also find contact information and more information about the chamber at proudofwichita.org.
The Wichita Wagon Masters recently, working with the Wichita Community Foundation, gave out 31 grants totaling the amount $30,660 to local small nonprofits as a result of the chili cook-off that we do each year. And then we have an event coming up on Saturday before St. Patrick's Day. That will be March 16th. The Patio Masters Party, Wagon Masters Party at Napier Park. And that will be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There'll be food, live music, raffles, beard contests, bands, etc. And proceeds from that also go to support the Good Life grants as well. So again, it's March 16th, and you can get more info on the Wagon Masters Good Life in Wichita Facebook page.
Yeah, I have a few. So Friday, I attended the Digital Equity Summit all day Friday at the Learning Library. And Councilmember Johnson, were you going to talk about that too, or you want to still? Okay, well, you'll have more about it because my takeaways There's tons of dollars, like billions of dollars coming to help close the digital equity gap. How those dollars are gonna be spent, it's still kind of under development. I took away that there's really no easy path forward. This process is kind of being developed on the fly. It kind of felt like building an airplane while you're flying in it. But, I think we'll want community input about what the DAB can do to help move this forward in the community to help close that digital gap. It was fascinating. There's gonna be more to come. So just stay tuned. Another announcement, the Fraternal Order of Police contract is up for renewal this year. And what that means to the community is, I guess the reason I bring it up, a couple of reasons, is the contract document itself is very old and outdated. And I say that from the position of an executive, right? I was an executive for many years. And so it's not a terrific document. And the downsides of that is when the document's not well written, then I think you have a greater risk of litigation. That's one thing. And the other thing that we hear from people in the community, or that I hear, is that there's not a lot of transparency in the negotiating process, right? There's negotiations going on, and then historically it kind of comes down to it's ready to be signed or presented to council for approval. I think the tweaks have, I don't have a lot of history with it, but within the community, they feel like there should be community input. They should have an opportunity to see how the negotiations are going, see what's being changed with an opportunity to give input, right? So I think there's going to be more coming up on that. And then on policing, I sat in on the last city council working group. Phew, that was a long one. Well, I don't know, maybe they're all that long. Anyway, what I took away is that, as a community, we have input, I think, on budgeting for policing. And I never really understood that until the city manager said that at the meeting. There's ideas and so forth that could possibly bear fruit in policing or lowering crime, that they're willing to work that into the budget. So that was the big eye opener. And then that tied back to something I learned at the Digital Equity Conference. There was a presentation by the Urban Library Center, I think, that they presented all sorts of different library associated programs, unique initiatives, I guess, with libraries throughout the country. And I understand that some of these have been proven to lower crime, which I found fascinating, right? So I'm getting more information on that. But the whole idea that as a community, we can have perhaps some input on budgeting for police, and maybe it doesn't have to be, we just get more police on the streets. So there's that. The other police thing is, I've heard twice now, once, maybe both comes from the city manager, that there's some tracking metrics that are coming along. I haven't seen them yet. And so I think I'm looking forward to those, and I don't know how you expect those or you know much about that. That's all I'll say today.
Okay, can I just add on that digital equity where this National Council of Libraries was talking about reducing crime, because they talked about different ways that they were putting together projects to keep young people busy so that they didn't have time on their hands when they weren't directed accomplishing something, but it gave them something they really wanted to jump into and do. So that you got a little logic working in there as to how the magic works.
Yeah, thank you.
It is Women's History Month. I want to encourage everyone to support a woman-owned business, specifically the Black Print. It's a Black-owned business here in District 1, but there are a plethora of entrepreneurs and local businesses you can support. You can visit the Create Campaign website if you're looking for minority entrepreneurs to support and or to bid out contracts to. Hopefully you take the time to do that, not just this month, but every month moving forward. Also want to remind folks that on March the 18th, that is going to be the city council meeting that takes place in the evening. I know that for prior years, folks have talked about accessibility to the council meetings, considering that they happen so early in the morning. I know nothing is promised, but I would just say, perhaps if there's a large showing at this specific council meeting, that could be a reason to argue that there should be more access to evening meetings so that more people can physically be present. I do know that the city council has made great strides to make their meetings available online. As we talk about digital equity, we know digital equity is not just about the infrastructure or about the devices, but about the ability to know how to use those devices too, which can often serve as a barrier for people accessing their local government. So those evening city council meetings are very, very important, especially for our senior citizens to be able to come in person, to share their thoughts and voice their concerns. So please spread the word, tell everybody to show up and to be there. Tuesday, March 18th at 6 o'clock p.m.
March 19th?
19th, sorry, thank you.
It's on my calendar, but then I just pressed it.
Yeah, 19th, not the 18th.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that.
I guess one thing to bring up, since we were talking about the IDs, you can, on the Secretary of State's site, there's a number of IDs you can use, but I think relevant to share is there are exemptions, unless that gets changed in state law, that permanent advanced voters, voters with illnesses or disabilities, may vote without the ID requirement, and voters age 65 or older can use an expired photo ID. And then registered voters who do not have an approved government issued photo ID can apply for a free non-driver identification card through the Division of Motor Vehicles. And to get that, you'll just fill out a single page form for a non-driver identification card. And that form is available online as well as at all driver's license offices and all county election offices. And also want to thank everyone on the DAB for those who are continuing to serve this new year and for the new faces who are serving as well. I want to thank you all again for your time. So, yeah.
I
have a question with that text. Does it mention turnaround time for that free ID?
Not see anything about turnaround time on that webpage that has it.
I think you get it when you take your form to the DAB.
At the center. When you
Like
take
get a
it.
printed form right then and there?
Looks just like a driver's license. I have to check IDs on these people, IDs sometimes, and that's what they have. It's just and it looks just like a driver's license, except it's not.
Let's see.
Gotcha.
And trying to see if you're able to, because if you can access it online, it's maybe send it in as well, because you are signing essentially an affidavit. Yeah, I guess you still have to go and get your picture taken. Yep. That's the only hindrance there. All right, so we are now going.
19th isn't.
Just real quick, an announcement for me, sorry. So the College Hill Neighborhood Planning Committee, again, this is the committee that is working in conjunction with the city planning office and then a consulting firm, just to get some insight about the neighborhood moving forward. We are going to be hosting a kickoff event. I just had a meeting right before this. So it's either going to be the evening of March 25th or the 27th. And we will be hosting kind of an open house where you can come and share ideas. And then following that will be some roundtable sessions. And again, this is going to be open to the entire community. So not just residents or businesses of College Hill. So if you utilize the neighborhood in any way, shape, or form, we would like to have your feedback. We will be pushing more information out about the event later this week once those details do become finalized. But other than fellowship with your neighbors, it sounds like we're planning to have some really good food and possibly some beverages from some of the wonderful kind of eateries and drink places in College Hill or College Hill adjacent. So definitely keep an eye out on that. I would encourage everybody, especially on the DAB, if you can attend, to please do to share your feedback for this part of our district.
So
And if
much.
anybody has any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Sorry I didn't check with you first.
What's it called?
So it'll be the open house. Again, that's going to be for the College Hill, what are we called? Planning Committee. Yeah.
Thank you.
What's the time frame on that? Do you have an idea?
Yes. So I believe it's going to start about for the open house, and the open house piece will be more of kind of just a come and go, and then we should have some prompts up around the room where people can kind of grab a post-it and provide feedback on different topics surrounding the neighborhood. That'll be coming and go probably starting at 4:30. I believe it'll end around 6, and then that's when more of those focus kind of roundtable discussions will happen.
Thanks. Do you know the broader time frame for the steering committee? Like, are they looking at having recommendations to the council in a year, or I know the consultant as well? And
Yeah, so I believe the consulting firm, I'm sorry, did I miss a question?
just trying to figure out if you know the time frame for it.
Yes. So I believe that the consulting firm, they are on contract through, I believe, July or August. So I think recommendations, the deadline would be around August of this year so far.
Thank you. Yes.
Through August. And the city council open house is also primary day.
Go primary and then talk about the city council.
All right, we'll receive and file all those comments from DAB members and move on to the public agenda. There are no scheduled items, so next we'll have off agenda items. So this is any individual member of the public who would like to speak and address the DAB as well as.
Kayla has something.
Nikayla, you have
Yeah.
something?
Sorry, I said no comment in the chat, but I actually will mention something because it kind of I think segues into some of that conversation about the racial profiling board. So there recently in our Kansas legislature is having conversations about the marijuana legalization and processing. And it relates to some of the, reducing crime. Of course, it was decriminalized, but the entry points for farmers, for distribution, in $1 billion industry is being discussed, but there's no bill number just yet. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention, just to pay attention to the conversations. That is a great economic driving prosperity for our state and for our city. So there were provisions regarding the hemp industry and entry points as well. So if any of you are advocates in that area or know anyone that is, you may share that information with them. And I know Councilman Johnson made a post about that, so I don't know if anything was going to be shared more, but you could read more on his page as well.
Thank you, Nikayla, and thanks to the one flagging. And yeah, I know there's a number of local state reps, like Hoheisel, you could reach out to as well, who have put forward legislation in the past. For context, the House has passed in prior sessions a bill to provide some form of legalization, even if medicinal medical. The hindrance, or two major hindrances they're facing. One is, since we're one of the last states to come around on this, we are looking at so many other states and pulling from them for best practices, which then creates a divide often between those who are looking at home growing or smaller operations versus bigger operations, and requirements for capital and licensing and access. So all those debates are going on. And please understand, there are also some politics, as there always are politics. Like some of you are probably aware, the last time we had a build in conference committee, it seemed to be that the gambling ended up being the focus or the priority for conference committee versus this. So if it is an important issue to you, your voice matters because sometimes the legislature can get things in a bipartisan manner across the line. But then once it gets to conference committee or needs to be signed by the governor, having that, showing that additional support versus other issues going on is critical. So thank you for bringing that. And so we'll move back to the off agenda items. Any member of the public can now give comment and speak about what's going on, something on their mind. If it's about the update to the CUP that we're having, you'll have a chance to talk to that. If you would like to ask a direct question to the council member or give feedback to any of the things he's about to say, he will be going after that. So this is an opportunity for any member of the public, anything off topic or off agenda. Online or in person.
You're still gonna talk about parks.
So we'll move to council member updates and announcements.
All right, no updates. Next. Let's see, I will give a few, starting off with some notes. I wrote down daylight savings time this weekend. Make sure that you pay attention to the hours. It sucks for me because I will be in Washington DC and I'll be losing 2 hours. But that is this weekend. Make sure you are checking your clocks. That is also the time you're supposed to change the batteries on your smoke detectors. Joseph said it, but Tuesday the 19th is our first evening meeting of the year, 6 o'clock at City Hall. It will be a full council meeting, so whatever's on that agenda will be our meeting. We will be there. Sorry, Paul, as late as it takes. So the mayor and Councilmember Glasscock have really been supportive of this. And of course, I talked about it when I got elected. So we are trying 4 for this year, 1 every quarter. And that is our first one. It probably will be a longer meeting because we will be out of town next week in Washington DC. So there will be no council meeting next week. So whatever would have been on that agenda is probably going to get pushed to the 19th. Also on the 19th, it's important that people actually do show up to that. We are moving a workshop item from workshop to the council agenda to talk about engaging community and how we can be better with communications. So those who can get to city council, it'd be great to hear from you on that item to let us know how we could be better, give us some innovative ideas. Much like some have seen at different District 1 breakfasts, if you give an idea, we probably thought about a lot of it, but we haven't thought about everything. And there's probably ways we could be better about what we're doing. So definitely be there. Let us know about that. I've had a few people reach out to me about some recent shootings and parties at short-term rentals. So at tomorrow's council meeting, I will be bringing up the ordinance that was tabled by the last council regarding nuisances at rental properties to see if there are some things we can talk to community about and get better on top of that. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is parents renting out these short-term rentals for their kids and then later playing ignorant that they didn't know that there would be drugs and alcohol at said party. And because they didn't talk to their kids about it, they're kind of telling semi-true. So we will find ways to engage in that and stop that, whether it's better reporting to the short-term rental companies or actually taking action on the short-term rental owner, but that will be happening. And I'll be bringing that up tomorrow. Earlier today, there was a job fair, but the city has over 300 positions open. So if you need a job, this is a great place to work with great benefits. And yes, we are hiring. So that is on our website. We will have more job fairs around the city here in the coming weeks. Also, I'm saying this, but I got to do it real quick so you don't take my spot. Summer camps this summer all opened up on March 1st. So Summer of Discovery and Summer Activity Camp, those are available and affordable for folks. Summer of Discovery, I believe, is a half day. Summer Activity Camp is full day. They get to go on all types of wonderful field trips and go to our pools. So if you have young folks that you want to get signed up for summer camps, City of Wichita has some great opportunities for you. We also have made an offer and I think accepted for our District One CSR. You will all, his start date is April 15th. Dab gets to see him April 20th when we do our training. So you'll get to see him before the next Dab meeting. But looking forward to having him here. I think he'll be great. I think you all will like him once you meet him. So excited about that. Medical cannabis, yes, I had a conversation with Representative Ford Carr about what is going on in the legislature. After some pushes, as you all know, medical cannabis legalization is on our state agenda. Looks like there have been some progress being made behind the scenes, but unfortunately, like Michaela said, it sounds like there could be limits on licenses, potential list of people who they're already thinking about giving those licenses. And when you think about just the impact of the war on drugs, people of color make up a majority of folks in prison that tend to see the legal side of things, yet it doesn't seem like anyone of color is a part of this licensing process. So I appreciate him calling me and letting other folks know and writing the article that he did. Hopefully the legislature considers that, as Tex said, whether it's requirements for large growers, home growers, there needs to be some form of balance that changes that. That same conversation was around industrial hemp, which in Kansas, I think could be a great industry for us. You can make hempcrete, you can make pretty much anything out of hemp. So that would be great, hemp paper. So hopefully they are taking all of that into consideration. So my Facebook post I made is one thing I just believe, and that is if we do legalize cannabis in any way, shape, or form, that I think the legislature should vacate all convictions going back a certain number of years of cannabis. Will they do it? I don't know, but I think they should. It's not right that it's legal and folks are selling it and having a great time while other folks were punished and put into the system. So that's everything I wrote down. I'll be quick to the other things I have. I talked about this weekend at the breakfast. We had a wonderful breakfast. Troy Anderson, our assistant city manager, was here to talk about economic development. As I've always said, I try to bring guests to our breakfast, not only to present the great stuff we're doing as a city or other folks in community, but also to provide feedback. We are about to look at reforming our economic development tools. And so that was one opportunity to be able to speak to what community may want to see more of. There will be future conversations, but District 1 always gets the first one. Let's see. Policy-wise, tomorrow, the council will be reconsidering the ordinance to ban LLC contributions to candidates. So whatever you believe on that, tomorrow's the day to show up. It is our first item on unfinished council business, so one of the first things that'll happen. Would love to hear from folks.
Question there. After I took it home, of course, somebody said, well, that's not gonna stop PAC type. But it would, wouldn't it?
No. No, so the question around what we did was the interpretation of freedom of speech and a PAC for our legal department is that freedom of speech, and we could not ban PACs. That is part of their interpretation of the Supreme Court decision. But you ask that tomorrow, they will give you their full legal opinion on that. But it is just LLCs. The amendment offered by Councilmember Glasscock would allow the managing partner or managing partner or owner to be named on that. So you'd be able to see as a candidate, if you get a business contribution, you'd have to list that person or persons. But that again is tomorrow. It's one of our first items. If you're for it, show up. If you're against it, show up. We want to hear from you. If you have amendments, show up. Let us know what those are. Or you can email us those, but showing up really is a good way to do it. Some cool things council has approved in February. $250,000 was approved for the Charles Goose Dowdy tennis courts. You play tennis, you'll see some of the cracks in those courts. We're gonna redo those, reorganize, add some color, some new materials. I know folks will be happy. I always bring up, I know my senator will be happy. Senator Fausto has talked about tennis on those courts. She will be excited. Also, we approved almost $55,000 to improve Barry Sanders football field. The improvements will be a new scoreboard, field grass quality, site amenities. The site amenities will be new bleachers and potentially a hydration station as well. So council did approve that. Glad to see that. We had a really long workshop around our federal and state legislative agenda. A lot of it was focused on federal because we're going to DC next week. We also had a presentation on arts and economic prosperity study and cultural arts strategic plan. Definitely worth checking out if you didn't, see how awesome the arts are in our community and what that means for our economy. And then we also had a preliminary budget overview and 2023 ARPA report from some organizations that received some funding. On our federal legislative agenda, Councilmember Hoheisel and I have brought up the issues with the United States Postal Service. We will be taking that to DC as well. We've already reached out to Senator Moran's team. They let us know that it will be an up mountain battle with that. For those who don't know, neighborhoods are continuing to lose postal service to their door or to their mailbox on the curb. And it's because of some real dog attacks and some scary dogs just roaming the block. And with enough reports, they remove service from your door to your curb, from the curb to a cluster mailbox. All of these decisions are permanent. They will not reverse it, even if there's only one person on your block that has the dogs and they move. It's a permanent decision. You'll never get your mail service back. We don't agree with that. That's not good, and it's dangerous for anyone who gets medicine delivered to them. We've had people reach out to me on diabetes medication, and the challenge is when you move service from your door to the mailbox, if you don't have the mailbox set up, where does your mail go? To the post office. You may not know that. Then your mail stacks up at the post office. If you don't have the right type of ID, then you can't get your mail anyway, which means your medication sits there. That could be really bad for you. That happens on every phase, and installing the cluster box takes a little while. So every day that you would get mail, it would be going to the post office. So we're going to see if we can do something to change that. We've been told that our postmaster is the one trying to push this model throughout the country. So hopefully we can stop that.
And the lines at the post office can be really long to get your mail. Our local postmaster or Joel?
The local postmaster. And then lastly, I already did that. You all saw there was one arrest in the Jackie Robinson theft. There is more coming. The DA and WPD are just making sure their cases are airtight, so it's not just one person, but there will be more arrests coming here in the near future. Anybody in the 29th and Grove contamination plume has probably received at least one door hanger from Root the Power. They're working to do this. That door hanger talks about next steps. It's a well survey, so it's looking to see if anybody has dug a well or has a well that is not noticed by the city or KDHE. There are 16 documented wells. We think that there's probably more than that because there had never been a well survey. So that's what Root the Power is doing on behalf of Union Pacific. They should be out door to door in the coming weeks now that it's warming up. But one round has already happened, dropping door literature. And then last couple things coming up at council. Tomorrow I'll be bringing up again ranked choice voting for council member replacement. Midterm, not voting. I think the public should always vote, but sometimes we have an opportunity where DAB gets to nominate a few people and council makes a final appointment. If you remember the District 3 situation, we did not agree for 3 council meetings. And then we finally did, which is not fair to District 3. Ranked choice voting makes everything one day. So one day at DAB, one day at council, you'll have a council. 15th Street Bridge is happening next. Definitely pay attention to that. And I talked about the MAC earlier. Then Mr. Patton, you asked me a question about parks. What is that question again?
Question is, budget shortfalls and the parks are already severely underfunded as far as maintenance and upkeep and things like that. And so, how bad of a slam are they gonna take?
We don't know yet. That's part of our ongoing budget discussions, but I mean, honestly, I've always said all of our departments are underfunded. And a lot of people look at that as just big government, but most of our salaries or most of our money is salaries. So if we talk cuts, we're talking people. It's not really programs. So hopefully it won't be that bad. We are taking budget stuff serious. We're looking at potential downfalls next year and in 26 as well, maybe even 27. I'm thinking that's probably more of just things we won't do instead of cuts and push those off. We'll see. We've kind of done a mixture of both in the past.
Well, you know, I'm familiar with the park over there. Is there any sort of program you can get to, like spray weeds and stickers and everything? I've been taking, my personal spraying equipment over there, got a pretty good large, sticker patch, I think finally under control. But, you know, I plug it up there and I spray that particular, I just don't want the park to become like the Columbine Park out west where it's unusable.
Yeah, I'll ask about that, but I'm not sure on that.
And, well, while you're asking, been digging through, you know, we've had issues with playground equipment and everything. And, seems like, well, it doesn't seem like, why don't they, put any bids out for the contract instead of just full retail plus 20%?
On the equipment?
No, on the equipment and the placement. The one piece of equipment they're talking about is quoted a number of $50,000. And I dug through all the old paperwork I had, and that was if the company from Colorado, wherever, they came and did it, and it's based on the amount of concrete work and, you know, bids like that. Instead of $45,000 for the installation, probably looking more like $17,000 for the work done instead of the $40,000. I just wondered if it was a requirement that the park department pay full retail for everything.
I can ask on that too.
And while we're at it, there was some angst among the park, I guess Mr. Troutman, Troy. There was some work done on the facility there a few months ago. And, you know, people walked by. They called me, sent me pictures, and I went and looked at it and sent some information, and I guess there was some grief, and but basically it was just crap work. I mean, it was just horrible. And then after a little bit of discussion, I guess they came out and they did a little better, but you know, it was just, they paid full price for a 20% job. And you know, they tried to tell me that I needed to stay in my lane. It didn't go well. But do they not have any oversight as to when they do something like this?
So it really depends on who did the work. If we contracted it out, we don't
Contracted it
have
out.
somebody standing there watching them. So it's up to folks like you to let us know when it's not done.
Well, they don't like it when folks like me take pictures and send it to them, but
They gotta do better work.
so anyways, well, so
Is
there's
the
a few
problem-
other things that we can talk about a little bit later.
Is the process with something like that, to the extent that the citizen reaches out to their council member, is there an actual process to flag, to report to the city, so the city can have an official log of a complaint against a contractor, so that when there is an RFP in the future?
Well, I just dealt with the park department people.
Yeah, I don't, other than reaching out to the council or park. I'm not sure. I haven't looked for that feature in the app, so I don't know if it's there.
Well, just, I've written issues with my Old Neighborhood Park on the app. I'm not there now, so I don't know if I got, well, they were working on it, that's a log, I guess, is what all I'm saying.
It'd be nice if there's an organized database of
Yeah.
whenever there is an RFP out, so that if the winning bid can be cross-referenced for any
Yeah.
complaints from the past. That's possible. too.
Oh, College Hill.
But surely there's some kind of punch list or something and interim inspections and things, right?
For public safety.
When it's done, do they have somebody go look at the work?
I'm pretty sure somebody looks at it, it's done. But again, it depends on, what you were looking at. I don't know what that process looks like. I haven't been out there. But, and when I have had complaints about roads or other work done, I just talk to Public Works and somebody gets with the contractor and it normally gets fixed. It could be as little as there's a line in the middle of the road that's just a little too wide because they didn't flatten it right. Seen it get fixed pretty quickly, so. Any other questions for me?
How much did you say was gonna be invested into the tennis courts?
$250,000, $125,000. That brings the total since I've been elected to almost 17 million for McAdams. So we've got a brand new community center, that was 13.2. We saved the pool. Got another grant, that was about 2 million. Now $250,000 for tennis courts. What's going on with the bridge at Barry Sanders Field, so. I said that should be a destination park when I ran, and we are about there.
Going to your point on medical marijuana, something that you brought up before with the police chief, is especially if this gets passed, and even if it gets killed again in conference committee, seeing that the legislature is putting forward and putting it in motion, if there can be conversations with our police department in updating the recruiting policies to allow individuals with they only have marijuana violation on their record, because they've updated the policy over the last few years with tattoos, with beard, facial hair and things like that. But I see that being a huge crutch for some recruitment as well, when you have a nonviolent offense like that. That especially if someone didn't, and then communicating that policy's been changed, it can't be changed.
I agree.
On the STRs, you said you tabled the nuisance, so did y'all just do the fees and the licensing, or is there also a capacity, like a number of individuals still on there separate from the nuisance that could get the individual in trouble?
We only did the fees and license. There were a couple council members that wanted to talk about this in more detail.
And on the campaign finance, I apologize, I wasn't able to make it to the last meeting, because this is what I've felt for many years in many states. And so something I guess relevant to the legislature is there was an interim report from the Government and Ethics Committee this last session, that obviously they're not going to take this on right before an election. That's my read. But they recommended that the next session, there will be updates and clarifications and some definitions, as well as updating the limits themselves, because our limits have not been updated in 30 years. And so if you think about individuals being able to give $500 30 years ago, even if, there's some middle-class person that wants to support a candidate and they're capped at $500 at the local level, these are conversations that need to be had, and it seems there's bipartisan support about that. What's tough with amendments happening tomorrow, looking into this, is Kansas is like some other states where the home rule doesn't allow the cities to have much ability to create their own policies beyond just creating a more restrictive policy to what's in the legislature. Because my gut would be I've historically worked in states, both Dem and Republican majorities, where you have no labor organization or corporate contributions direct to campaigns, but they have higher limits. And because my greatest concern with this is that if you don't look at those limits, then outside groups have more influence on that electoral process themselves. And PACs are separate. The only thing that Citizens United did with PACs is allow at federal level hybrid PACs. PACs have been constitutionally backed since the 70s, but their influence will be stronger and stronger As well as my concern is some of these folks who are giving to their LLCs don't have the time or savvy to create their own PACs or C4s to get involved on the outside. And so then those few groups that are already established working on the outside could have the appearance of more influence on the electoral process. So that's my greatest concern. And I would say with the registered agents, my concern with the LLCs is, I know that's an additional reporting requirement, restriction that would be allowed, but then most folks who have multiple LLCs would have a registered agent that would even not be themselves or even be an employee, but a contractor themselves. So that'd be my concern. I would rather, if possible, especially if we look at increasing limits in the future, have just more transparency that way, so that if there's an individual, especially someone excited in town who wants to give above the $500 amount, especially when they're taking on a challenger or supporting a challenger to an incumbent, that's an allowance, and we put more focus there than incentivizing more money being on the outside. So I know it's messy, but I mean, tomorrow you can't really do what I would hope you can do with the LLCs.
Break it down for us.
Any questions from Dab or comments on the issues that Councilmember brought up or other issues for council?
Well, if none, I do want to remind people that although the emergency shelter is closing the 31st, we still have unhoused people in our community, and many have expressed an urge to not see them. They are people, they are here, they have been here. Many of them come in this building. There are encampments in District 1. There are some in Glendale Park. They have been there. And so when people say that we don't have those problems over here and this is something new, it's not. It's just a little more visible right now on 21st Street. But many of these individuals have been here and have just been coming here or finding other resources. So I'm just hopeful that after the 31st, we still treat unhoused people like humans. Some of the commentary that I've continued to hear does not treat them like humans. They are. Some of them have found themselves in bad situations. Life has hit some of them. Very few of them actively just choose to be homeless. And even those who may have some other challenges going on with them. So I would hope that after the 31st, we still treat folks with humanity. We will still see unhoused people because they were here before. They'll be here after. 2 of them were in the building earlier today that I talked to. So just want to end with that.
Anybody else? Councilman?
This is a little ridiculous, but I just want to share that hemp, and for lack of a better term, industrial hemp, is one of the most amazing materials you can. It's a natural material. It makes the strongest rope in the world. The other things people can do with it is amazing. Grows like crazy. And in the plains, we just don't have the 10 inches of black dirt I had in Alabama, let me tell you. But it'll grow here and not take a lot of chemicals. I mean, it's fantastic stuff. And I have heard all my life what a shame it is we can't be growing industrial, for lack of a better word, hemp all over the country. So
Used to be one of the main crops in Kansas before the scare when immigration that happened. So made all those southern states outlaw it. Yeah. All right, moving on to new business. Item number 9, stop drainage canal bridge replacement at 15th Street.
Well, my name is Jeff Wagner. I'm a special projects engineer for the city of Wichita's engineering department, the design section. I'm gonna make a few introductions here. But I asked that you let me go ahead and finish my whole presentation here before we start getting into questions. Otherwise, this could drag out a little bit, and I'd like to keep this moving, and I'll be willing to back up and do any slides after, once we get to the questions portion. So with us today, starting in the back row, we have Gary Jansen, our Public Works Director, and then Steve Dagenhart sitting next to him. He's our Construction Division Engineer. Paul Gentleman is our newly appointed, public works, city engineer, and then next to him, our consulting firm is Jay Engelmeyer and Steve Frank. And then, next to those two is Ella Monique Bagus. She is our artist selection for this project. So with that, I'm going to move on. Our background for this project is June 6, 2023, City Council approved an agreement with MKC to design the improvements for the Wichita Drainage Canal Bridge replacement at 15th Street North. This is our project limits for the project, shown here in red. Look how well my pointer is working. It's hard to see, but our project location is the red portion. That's where we intend to do most of our construction. The turquoise area is the Wichita Drainage Canal. It's surrounded by I-135 on each side. 15th Street is to the east of our project, and then that transitions down into the park and into 14th Street to the west over here. I will say what we have here is kind of what I would call like a dead end type street. Once you get past Mosley here, which is over on the west side of our project, this route forces you to go up to 13th and 17th Street. That'll come a little more prominent in how we kind of show things a little bit. I just wanted to make sure everybody understands that you really have no through route here. And traffic wise, we don't lose a lot by going with our proposed solution for what we do with the bridge here today. So the bridge itself was built in 1925. As we might say, that's close to 100 years on the age of the bridge. That's getting up there. Our 2019 NBI inspections resulted in the recommendation to close the bridge to traffic will require yearly structural inspections, which is double what we would normally do for our bridge inspections. We opted at the cost to do those inspections to keep the bridge open with some repairs at the time. So, currently our sufficiency rating for the bridge is 41%, and it's considered structurally deficient. But the part we want to look at here is the 41%. The last time, if anybody recalls, we did 10th Street. We removed 10th Street. Its sufficiency rating had just dropped a little bit below 38%. So if you start looking at where we're at with this bridge compared to the 10th Street Bridge, as far as condition wise, we're to the point where removal of the bridge is pretty much almost guaranteed and almost necessary in the near future. Part of what we've done on the bridge to keep it open is we did have to close, but we wanted to keep the sidewalks open, but in order to cost effectively do that, we had to choose a side, and so we opted to keep the north side open. We had to do some repairs in 2021, but then we also closed the south walkway, and I'll have a slide that kind of goes over that and a little bit of why. Our average daily traffic on the bridge is less than 200 during the weekdays, so very minimal. This is kind of what the bridge looks like today. It's.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
The slides aren't advancing online, so.
Oh,
I'm trying to troubleshoot that.
okay.
And I just lost your place.
There, that's where I'm at.
Okay. I don't know how to make that go away at the bottom, because that's not on my screen.
Oh, I think we'll probably be okay for the time being.
Okay. Are you good in this?
That
Is it
slide's
okay
fine.
for you guys? Does the clicker not work?
It was better with the picture larger, even with other stuff at the bottom, though. If we're gonna listen to what he's talking about.
Okay, Oops. So this is what the bridge kind of looks like today. It's got a little bit of wear. It's hard to see a lot of the condition issues from just this slide, but you can kind of see it spans the existing thing, the existing drainage canal right now. Part of what we are looking at on this bridge is exposed rebar, and that rebar is fully exposed. It's not connected to any concrete. Part of the way a bridge reacts is it requires an interaction between the structural concrete and steel in order to maintain its strength and longevity. What you're seeing here in some of these pictures is detached steel, and some of that in the structural members here. So therein lies the biggest problem with the project, or with the bridge as existing. And one of the things I'd like to point out is right here. This is the walkway. That is a hole through the deck. So you can put your fingers through that hole. That's part of the part we closed down. The other side was worse. That's the other side, had some bigger holes in it that we fixed. And show a couple here in a bit. So I wanted to point out a couple things here. There is our condition rating at the sufficiency of 41.4%. But going down here to the recommendations here from our consultant, we do have to kind of follow up some of these. These go into the state database, which reports to the FHWA on our bridge conditions. So when they say to close to traffic or a 12-month inspection cycle, we pretty much have to follow that. And their recommendation was replacement or remove the bridge. So here's kind of what I was talking about earlier. We had to close the south side of the bridge. You can see the sidewalk closed signs. That's where the picture was, with the hole through the deck where you can stick your fingers through. Over here, where you see a fresh piece of concrete, had a hole the size of about your foot could fit through. And so we fixed that, and one on the other side. I would like to point out that that cost close to $60,000 just to do 2 little patches in the bridge. So we cannot afford to maintain what we have out here. And what's more is trying to find a contractor to do it in a timely manner is nearly impossible right now with some of the work they have going on. They're not going to come spend their time and money to go do small projects like this. This one might help to, never mind. This is our traffic counts on the bridge. I will say that 2010 to 23, we have 5 different traffic counts. The 23 numbers that we did at the end of last year are almost identical to the ones that were done in 2012. So even though we can't see it there, it's up. The weekday was 175 and weekday was 191 and the week was 175. So those are the counts that are recent, and they're fairly consistent with what we've taken over the last 13 years. So this is what I would call a very unused road. I think my road in front of my house gets more than this traffic. I don't know that for sure, but there you go.
Would you attribute that to?
Questions at the end, let's start.
No.
I think you might have to forward it on.
Okay, well, Zoom crashed on me.
Oh, sorry. This might be locked up as well. There we go. All right.
Just tell me when to advance.
Sure. So this is a fairly simple slide. I just wanted to point out one little simple fact that you don't know already. It's very difficult to grow any vegetation underneath the highways out here. Just wanted to point that out that's gonna come to how we are looking at some of our design our design a little bit later on. I just wanted people to understand that first. This is our proposed concept. We're planning on closing off the road here on 15th Street cul-de-sac, adding a small little parking area right here where people can utilize this path, wrap our sidewalk around here, mark this with bike lanes here, create a 10-foot wide bicycle lane. When we remove this vehicle bridge. The plan is to make this into a pedestrian bridge only, no longer allow vehicles across. 10-foot path all the way down here to connect over here to McKinley Park Drive or 14th Street, however you want to call it from the previous slide. And then here's your driveway over to the pool. We are adding a sidewalk here that connects to the sidewalk that enters into the pool that's not there currently. So hopefully that'll create a little more connectivity throughout the park. We do plan on connecting back into the park or into the bike path that runs underneath I-135 and into the sidewalk sections here into the park itself. And so creating a connected project all the way around. I'll point out a couple of the deals here where we're looking at landscaping and art options for this project. This is selected for a special selection for art amenities through the art board. And right here we have yellow, which is landscape planting and various items, but the blue is for hardscape type stuff possibility. These are only possibilities at this point. We don't really know exactly what they might be. Some of this would have to get cleared with KDOT as well, but as I pointed out, you can't really grow anything underneath here. That's why we're looking at possible hardscape items. One of the challenges we have with this project is you have a low clearance. This is our highway that's drawn in here on each side and our proposed bridge. Our bridge will actually sit underneath the highway on each end. So that creates a clearance issue of 17 feet-ish, 17 and a half feet. So anything that we want to do on this bridge needs to stay at a reasonable height, especially on the ends. Our current ditch is shown here in this dotted line. So the ditch is actually going to get widened out through our bridge here. That helps with our FEMA model, and something that we did with the last bridge that we removed. It helped get some of the land out of the floodplain. It might also help some homes. We're not quite sure where we're at with that yet, to get out of the floodplain so that they no longer have to carry flood insurance. So we are looking at a 3-span bridge with piers in the drainage way still, and then a more of an iconic style looking bridge as opposed to a prefab one that comes with the standard boardwalk plank with metal rails, that rust, for lack of a better term. It's called weathering steel, but we're looking at something a little bit nicer to give some character to the area. It will be a 12-foot wide bridge, and that's to get a full 10-foot of clearance with a foot of freeboard for any bicycle handlebars, that type of thing. So this is a drawing of what the bridge could look like from the overhead, and they've removed the overhead I-135 from this drawing, so you can kind of see what it might look like in 3 piers, doing the 3 sections, 2 piers in the canal, and connection of all the bikeways and everything, sidewalks up here. And we're looking at some sort of sconces or lighting of some sort that we don't, this is part of our design that we need to move forward with once we get the concept approved. But those are types of things that we're looking to make this look like a very nice little bridge. Again, some more mock-ups showing what these might look from a side perspective or on ground perspective. None of the colors here are standards. It's just what we could show, what this could look like from our perspective. Our funding for this project is funded through 2024 capital improvement funds. We have $2.45 million in local sales tax available, and then 200 in art from the GEO bonds. And the total budget for this project right now is $3,050,000. So with that, I'm going to recommend that this design concept is approved. And our next steps here, should this be approved, are, right afterwards, Ella Monique is going to give us a little bit of what, she's looking for a little bit of community engagement for her art on the project. And so she's gonna show a few slides here real quick, like, to kind of go over some possibilities. And these are just to stimulate what thinking for the project, and she's looking for people to get in, give their ideals and such, and she'll go into a little more detail. Next step on that would be, concept design, presented to the city council on April 2nd. And anticipated construction start in 2024. So now we'll get back to the questions.
Yeah, what would you attribute the walking? The decline, would you attribute the decline? You said the road outside of your house, you believe got more traction than this one. I'm just curious, with your expertise, what would you attribute that?
Like, no vehicles crossing it?
Yeah, it was the slide that showed the number throughout
There's not a
the
lot of
years.
traffic lights.
Well, it's a little tired. It's 100 years old. Concrete does not have that long of a life. Steel starts to rust, it starts to get into the concrete. Concrete starts to rot a little bit around steel. It just starts to snowball after that. It could have been how it was designed. It could have been the type of concrete used. It could have been the type of steel used. There are a lot of things that come into play. This one and 10th Street were built around the same time, if not together. Both of them had the same type of stuff. That could have been something to do with the materials at the time. Concrete might have been not as great. So, but again, it's 100 years old. I believe this is one of our older bridges. It's our worst condition bridge.
It's one of the older bridges, but worse condition, so it's not the oldest.
I don't know. I haven't looked into every single bridge, when it was made to let you know, but I know it's very old compared to most.
Right.
But concrete bridges in the Roman Empire are now 2,000 years old.
Well, we don't have self-healing concrete, so.
Yes, we do. That's what's just been determined.
We don't.
We could have it.
So, anyway,
So it's not the oldest functioning bridge in each top, but it's still in the works.
I can't answer that. I don't know for sure if it's the oldest one or not. I know it's one of the oldest ones.
Well, so you, on one side of it, you anticipate some parking. You know, you have some parking spaces. I mean, who's gonna park there and for what purpose?
So the initial thought was it provides you a place for people to come as a destination to come. They can get off, they can start walking into the park from, it provides an access to utilize the park for someone or someone that wants to get on the bike paths. It provides you access to this bike path.
Yeah, it just
So-
seems odd that you would drive your bike there and get on your bike. I mean, I'm not a biker, so I don't know.
In general, we try to provide access for people that want to come and enjoy our bike routes.
Okay.
It does provide that.
Okay. I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes,
What's the building right across from the parking lot area? That big, is that residential home?
it's resident,
Okay,
yes.
that's just one, okay, I'm just trying to,
Plan is
I
not
didn't
to,
get a chance to drive
yes,
through.
it is a residency and
Okay.
the plan is not to affect them one bit.
So how is the land owned that's around the yellow part there? Is that, say it might be done in landscaping, is any of that private property beyond the yellow?
KDOT has some ownership there.
Okay.
So like I said, we're gonna have to work through with KDOT permitting and everything like that. The
And
canal.
who's gonna maintain that landscaping?
Anything that we would put in, we would likely have to maintain. I'm sure KDOT will not maintain any of it for us. So that kind of, like I said, we need to balance our budget on how we do this and be able to maintain what we put in. That's something we will look at. But yeah, it's anything we put in there has, underneath I-135 would likely need to get approval through KDOT. So those are the types of things that we would work through during our design project.
But the yellow part is all us.
I believe so. Part of it may fall into park, but I know the south, I'm pretty sure this is park here. I'm not sure where the property line is here and if that's park or if that's KDOT. And then this is all park. And then this is our portion through here, but, I know we have to maintain now there. There's some multiple ownerships through there. We'll have to make sure we cover all bases.
And that turnaround now is you're doing that, right?
This cul-de-sac,
Yes.
that's our plan, is to do a cul-de-sac so that people can enter and then exit back out, because there's not gonna be any other way to turn around.
If it's that big, you're gonna have a little trouble with people trying to park there and walk over to the park.
I suppose we would be able to sign it that way as no parking, I'm not sure. I'd have to go check our MUTCD on what. We would sign it no parking. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
What did he say?
He said we're gonna sign it no parking.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there
well-
couldn't be an application where you would make that a parking lot for the park. So that people could walk across the walk, you're going to.
That's what this is right there, that's parking.
Right. But
Not-
the people,
Not this is the road.
but if somebody else came up from the other side, they could conceivably want to park over there and walk over to the park,
Yes.
walk over the bridge.
Correct. Yeah, that's the plan, yes.
They want to park where that yellow is, so you need to
No.
expand it.
No, that's.
I understand you're gonna park on the other side of the bridge, on the west side. I'm saying you're very likely to have a few people that wanna park on the east side of the bridge and walk across the bridge.
That's gonna be landscaping.
Yeah.
That's what he's calling landscaping in the yellow. And the turnaround there is gonna tempt people to park.
Well, and those
And
are
I'm saying if
parking
that whole thing was made parking on the east side of the bridge,
Those are parking.
Oh, you got no way to turn.
you're on the west.
That's the
Now that
easy
they're-
place.
Just point to
This is the east side of the bridge right
I'm
here.
sorry. I see, said the blind man.
Sorry, I should have had an arrow on this, I apologize, for north. North is up.
I have a question, so, is there gonna be a bollard or something that's gonna keep a vehicle from going ahead and driving? Because I don't know, 10 or 12 feet, a small car can still go ahead and drive over the bridge. Is that what that is?
That little black dot
Okay,
and that little black dot are bollards. We haven't got into the full design of that. There's a possibility we may try to put a bollard here in front of the bridge itself. That's likely what we'll end up trying to do. Right now, we just show bollards here and here to keep people trying to off-road.
So why not just?
Any other questions?
We get to see the art. I'm sorry, are we gonna get to see the art? Is that-
We don't have any art design. That's part of our design. We have to get this approved as a concept before we get into the actual design of our art. So, but Ella's gonna, after we vote for the concept, Ella's gonna start getting the engagement going on what some of the things that she has thoughts on. And so there'll be a little bit here, but not specifically or exactly what we're gonna be doing.
I have one more question,
Yes, ma'am.
because I have a hard time seeing 3D. So on the cul-de-sac, I see like 3 little boxes to the right. What is that?
Sorry.
So you got,
Which-
yeah, right there. Yeah,
So this would be,
yeah, right.
The 3 little boxes.
Yeah.
Are they steps or something?
oh, right here.
Yeah.
That's a wheelchair.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a accessible spot, and then in order to make that accessible, we made a ramp on the side dimension. Yes.
So go ahead.
That's a down ramp
A standard
from the
wheel,
park.
yeah, a wheelchair ramp so that people can access from getting out of the
Dropping
side
down
of
to
the
the
vehicle.
sidewalk.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah. Yes.
Just in general, could you define hardscape?
It could vary from a lot of different things. Jay,
It could be concrete, colored concrete, it could be bricks, it could be landscaping,
So
basically.
it could
I
be
wouldn't say hardscape.
Sculptures or.
Not vegetation.
Yeah.
So it's not permanent.
Something that doesn't need water
yeah,
or daylight, sunlight.
Yeah. and like I said, we still have to get that approved through KDOT, but yeah, it's something. we're looking at as far as like not vegetation. It's, I think he had a question, then you'll be next.
If this concept is approved, will this be the direction you're going, or is there a possibility that it could change?
In general, it would be minor changes that we would make, nothing too outlandish. This is what we're planning on building if we get it approved. There might be some slight changes based on engineering and some of the art might change a little bit of the angles or something, but in general, it's not gonna change.
And excuse my ignorance here, is Ella gonna speak or?
Yeah, she's.
Okay, I have questions
art's-
about the art,
the
so
art's
I know
not-
you don't.
The art's not part of the concept at this point.
Right, but it will be a part of the process if approved,
Yes.
correct?
So we're looking to get the concept approved so that we can start developing art. Her portion is going to be to start acting with community engagement. And she has some ideas.
Great, look forward to hearing from you.
Before Deb votes on it, we'll give a chance for any members of the public to give.
Oh, yeah, you have a question right here, sorry.
Yes, are you going to be working on art in the hardscape as well?
Yes.
That's definitely an opportunity, right? So to identify places where art could happen. So I'm gonna give you an overview, like, ooh, these are cool things people are doing across the country. Do you like it? No, I don't like it, whatever, you know, so we'll talk about it.
And then the other part is, and I don't know if this is for you or for Brandon, because he brought up other projects that we're working on, but is this part of some strategic plan to, I don't know, facilitate more active ourselves, greater participation in these areas?
I don't know if it's in part of a strategic plan, but what it does is it ties in with what else is going on. But we have to address the bridge. Our time is running out for this bridge to function. And if something would happen to the bridge, you know, like we have another place that falls through or something, it's likely that we'll have to go down and shut the bridge down in emergency action.
It would be more costly.
What's that?
It would be more costly
To
not do something.
Eventually, the bridge will need to get removed, whether we do something here or not. I mean, that's just the plain and simple of it. The bridge does not have a long life left in it.
Katie, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. You had a question and a comment on the concept.
Yes, just have you received any public comment? And if so, what has that feedback been?
Nothing comment wise. I think I had a question on it the other day, but it was pretty minor. Nothing of any substance that I recall.
Thank you.
Come back to them in just a second. I just want to give a chance. Any other members of the public have a question or comment on the concepts?
Go ahead.
How far will the parking spaces go back on 15? Will it go as far as hydraulic? or-
I think what you see in here, we're looking at a limited number. We haven't done any type of real analysis on it. I think we show 9 regular spaces and 1 handicap stall. I don't know if that's our final number, but that's like in what we talked about, maybe some minor adjustments, but this is kind of what we're shooting for.
Now, how will the neighborhood over there be affected? With the parking and the public coming through, are you gonna have like the residents? It backed off so it's safe for them to come into their properties?
Not quite sure. Maybe I didn't understand that right.
Okay.
There's only the one resident right here that this would even affect. That's the one on the corner. And they will still have access to this roadway here. This is still going to be a city street. And I don't think it should have any effect on their safety whatsoever. That's your concern. Is that what your question was?
Well, yes, because now sometimes there are people over in the park, under the bridge as it is now. There are some people who stay out there at night, people who are homeless.
I don't know that I have a perfect solution for that. I know that on our bridges, we are looking to try to deter any type of fires underneath our bridges. So, I mean, with that, we don't want a place for people to camp underneath the edge of our bridge. This is gonna be pretty wide open. It's not a very ideal spot. It's gonna be pretty cold and chilly. There's not gonna be a lot of space to do any of that type of camping here. I would imagine that it'd probably be much nicer to camp in the open space underneath I-135, which I have noted. But we don't have any real, like, specific measures that we take to try to avoid homelessness, other than keeping our design so that we don't provide a lot of opportunity for it.
So it won't affect any other people who are living this side of the bridge. It's all gonna be west that it affects. The rest,
West of New York.
west of New York.
Yeah, I don't see this, it has very little effect on traffic whatsoever. Because, like I said, it has no connectivity going to the west. And so you to get all the way around it, I looked, the best I could come up with like 5 minutes to do a complete circle around it. So,
This bridge is gonna have a lot of lighting, correct? And there's no lighting established right now. Like if the current bridge doesn't have light fixture, lighting.
yeah, like.
So this new concept will have plenty of lighting, right? So that's, which I think helps with safety and security measures if it's well lit.
Ideally, what we would look at is some sort of a lighting on these. But some of that could be put into the artwork as well. I don't know. So, Jay, you want to go any further than that?
There's gonna be a lot of lighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the bridge and off the bridge.
Did you have a question?
Me?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I did, now I don't remember what it is.
I'm sorry, I didn't try to hear you.
I apologize.
No, it's
If,
okay.
if we're gonna go back to the DAB and if we're still
Well,
commenting.
I
Yes,
think, sorry, I think I do.
go ahead.
It was Saturday, the breakfast, there was a gentleman here that was, had a lot of input about his concerns for the bridge. Can you share what those words, what that words, I couldn't hear everything he was saying?
Yeah, it was Mr. Eccles, and he's just not in favor of the project. So all the public meetings that we've had prior to this, he's just said he preferred to be a vehicular bridge. That was the main issue. He didn't have an issue with the art. He just wanted a vehicular bridge.
Go on, Leah.
I was just gonna say, we've been talking about the bridge for a few years now. And so when somebody asks about public comment, a few years ago, there was a lot of public comment. We had it, meeting in here. And so the community at that time, they did have concerns, but it's been like 2, 3, 4 years, but at that time.
2018, I believe it came to that.
What is that?
Yeah.
Still,
Man.
that's only 5 years.
Okay, well, I was here.
Yeah, 2018. I think there was a.
And back then, when it was noted that the bridge was, deteriorating, that's when the signs went up and people weren't allowed to like walk on the bridge anymore, drive through. So, that's why the numbers went down and all that stuff, but, that's what happened. And then you saw in the picture, because you said it wasn't safe, and so they did stop cars. And then on one side, I think you couldn't even walk anymore because it wasn't safe.
But it's open for cars now.
I will say that we did traffic counts in 2013 before that bridge was shut down. And those were the lowest. And then in 2018, those were very similar.
Yeah.
So, I think it's fairly consistent at 200 or less. Now, there might be one day every so often when there's a big thing here that it goes more than that. But in general, I think this is pretty consistent. We've shown that over 13 years of traffic data.
Right, and I think the comments back then were that the community that lived there, they wanted the bridge, but that was years ago. And that was the conversation back then.
What is the number you would look at to do the repair versus this and traffic going over? that would keep the bridge.
There's not enough money to repair it compared to replace it. It'd be more expensive to repair this thing than to replace it.
Adding to that, there's on 17th Street, you were looking at anywhere from 14 to 16,000 vehicles a day. 13th Street was more like 25,000. So when you have both of those versus less than 200 on 15th Street,
And you said Saturday you made that decision.
I made that call.
My only comment on this would be, I'm not sure if their program went this far north, but a few years ago, the Wichita Police Foundation, working with community partners, did the Eyes on the River project to provide additional citizen and police monitored surveillance for safety along the river. And that, in conversation with the additional lighting, maybe if that, just to make a note, I think the foundation, if their project is not that far north yet, as a part of this bridge coming in, could be a part of the conversation.
Academy.
Some of the members of Citizens Police Academy help monitor at the police department that. That could be a part of the discussion and something else to add, and an opportunity maybe for community partners to support the project, and maybe even help with some of the artwork over the top as well. Safety features as well with the cameras too. To note, because it was a successful project a few years ago that didn't take any taxpayer money, and that could be a part of this as well.
I'd like to just speak just a little bit to this lady's concern for the neighborhood. And that is, the neighborhood in many ways would be much safer because you will not have somebody trying to take that little detour and run down by the park to beat somebody else out here on the street doing something. Potentially through traffic is a little more hazardous than local native traffic and intended traffic, especially it's gonna stop and walk across the bridge to a park. So it's probably safer for the neighborhood.
If there are not further comments, just want to make sure everyone's got a chance to say any final questions. I'll make a motion to approve the design concept with staff recommendations. Second,
Who seconded that?
Abby?
all in favor, say aye. Positive sign online. Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Unanimous approval. Thank you.
Sure. So next steps here, I'm gonna let Ella Monique give you a short little synopsis on what she's looking at. How to run this? Right.
Hi, everybody. Okay, a little bit further to go. Hang in there. Okay, my name is Ella Monique Backus. And what I'm I feel like the DAP is a great opportunity for community engagement. You represent the community. I want to take opportunity to get involved in the design process a little bit. So what I'm gonna show is just some things that people have done across the country to address pedestrian bridges, and you can say, I love it, I hate it. And then I'll give us some direction. We'll start looking at what is this thing actually gonna look like? What you're gonna feel like to walk across it. So that's what I'd like from you. You can just be like, I love it, or thumbs up or thumbs down, you know, however you'd like to respond.
Is there a chance that you could do this type of presentation in some of our community areas with local?
Yes, I
neighborhood
just need you to tell me
associations?
when
We
they are.
got some fantastic artists that live in this district. They're amazing.
Oh, you mean to ask the community what their feedback is in those, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you could give me that information, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah. Oh, and also, James has made a document where you can actually write your feedback. Anybody in the room, you can write your feedback, your comments about what you'd like to see. Okay. So this is what you just saw a second ago. And really this is just saying, there's gonna be some railing, there's gonna be some lighting, there's gonna be some pillars on the side. So that's all, it's not like it's gonna look just like this. So this is just one approach to doing a decorative rail. So it can be something where the railing is actually bent, it's a shape, you know. This one, you know, we would want to get to a height where we were just talking about another project from the design council earlier. People couldn't jump up and swing on it or anything like that. So some of the feedback might be, I don't know if we want to do overhead right? But this is just an idea about how you can decorate rail and be dynamic. This is I'm the art consultant for the Brewer Center, and so we went through a artist selection process, and the lead artist that was selected is Larry Poncho Brown. So this is a design that he did for the Brewer Center that I thought was really beautiful as far as community connection. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I want to get your input. But just there are ways to incorporate. I guess muralization is a loose way to say it, but images like this as you move across the bridge. So I can show you kind of examples. So this is a project that I did on Sycamore fence outside of the stadium. And this is called lenticular art. So basically it's a mural that's broken into pieces. So just like you saw the decorative rail going across the bridge, the rail going across the bridge, it can become dynamic just by adding a mural to every that you break in pieces across. So what happens is if you're standing right in front of it,
different picture from each end.
yeah, that's right. It could definitely be that. So that's an opportunity to add, to make it more dynamic, where we're just using the standard rail, but we put something on the rail to make it more engaging. So if you're standing right in front of it, it just looks like the regular rail, but as you're walking either direction, you can see something. This is another way to do lenticular art, where the pieces are larger, but you see how it makes one big, like tuning fork type of image, right? So like in between, it's nothing special. It's just like that's not chicken wire, but it's almost like a chain link type of material in between, not chain link. I don't know what's it called? Wire mesh. Okay, thank you. I'm like, give me some vocabulary to my brain. Is just on my last little bit of juice. Okay, so wire mesh in between, but it's still lenticular because it's one whole design that goes across. Then there's some other ideas. It can be something where you can use this is a certain type of resin, not glass, because it's more resistant to the elements than glass is resistant to the elements, but it's a way to make projection on the ground. And this could happen on the sides even, where you're using the sunlight or lighting to make the surface of the bridge more dynamic. I don't know how to use this pointy thing. Oh, this is basically, cut metal sheets. They could have a pattern, and then this material is behind it. And then you can see that here too. Cut metal, and then this material is behind it so that it creates an effect on the ground. And then these are just ways that you could treat the actual concrete hardscape. You could use concrete stamping. This method over here is called lithocrete. It's more expensive, of course, but basically what you were talking about with the glass aggregate. And when the concrete is poured, it's shook. The glass aggregate is shaken into the concrete, and then it can be made into a design. So we wouldn't want to do that on the actual walk surface of the bridge, because James tells me at some point they're going to grind that down and replace it. We don't want to have to, if you invest all that, you don't want to have to redo it. So these are just I think that's all the ideas. I'll just go back through really quick. And then if you have, you want to give me your responses about any of the things I've shown, doing some type of decorative rail. You don't want to vote? Give me want to vote what you're saying? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
It's just to receive and file and give feedback, so there's.
Okay. Do you have comment about it?
I guess if we can go through each and
Sure.
folks can give a comment now they've seen them all.
Okay.
To go back to the decorative rail first.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So
I was just going to say that I like this because it creates a picture.
Mm-hmm.
I like the movement that gives, but I'm wondering if for safety reasons, you just take it down smaller and not do it over, which I wish I would love that over, but I just feel for safety.
Kids are gonna crawl up on it.
We have a lot of rules that we have to follow on railing, so we'll have to check it against all of those before we do anything.
Okay.
I would say that would be great if you had if we were looking through that circle and you actually had something to look at instead of a ditch.
Right. Wouldn't that be interesting? Yes, I hear what you're saying on that. Okay. That is much more beautiful. Now what? And this is just this kind of design where basically it's people overlapping and meeting in the middle. It wouldn't be these people necessarily. I think it should be diverse people. I think that'd be great. Yeah. So I don't know, how do you feel about this? This is just like a pencil sketch.
I like the idea of any concept that really kind of tries to reconnect the neighborhoods on either side of the highway. Because there's a lot of spaces along I-35 where the community is really kind of just cut in half, kind of bluntly.
Yes, intentionally.
So, right, exactly. So something that could maybe make the neighborhood on the east side of the canal feel more connected to park on the west side.
Could something like this be done with the articular art?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, it could. That's the kind of the direction I was thinking. It could be done with lenticular art. It could be done with those different colored panels, right? Where it's just like a solid thing instead of, so there's like this, it could be like this, where each piece of it makes up something, and then you have the mesh in between. There's lots of different ways to accomplish that. It could be done where it's printed. You see how this is a design printed in it? It could be printed on one of these types of things. It doesn't have to have the metal on top of it. So there's a lot of different ways to accomplish that image, if you like that image, or that concept of people overlapping and coming together. That's basically.
Budget wise, would we be able to, if you did a mural like that with articular art, would there also be potential funding to also do some overhead with the natural lighting as well? And if the lighting that y'all are wanting to put in could at night still shine through that overhead art. I do like that a lot, but I think the priority should be the external facing, like a mural that's more community focused, but having the additional light, so the person who's actually using the bridge is very welcoming that way and provides that additional artwork beyond just being outside of the bridge, driving by and seeing it. So if there is funding to do both, I would love to see it.
Lenticular and overhead
I'm
lighting.
concerned about that. I mean, that's gonna get, the top gets so dusty and yucky with rain and dust and leaves and just debris in general. Well, and then you're close to the interstate, right? And so it's not just dust, it's that greasy dust that comes from all the exhaust. I mean, that's gorgeous, but I don't know how you keep it clean.
Is the material, like how does that work in other bridges where there's transit nearby? Is the material?
I don't know that everything that I've seen, when they do something like this, there's a way that it's like open, where they can spray it, power wash it, because it's gonna get bird poop on it too, you know,
Oh,
they're
that's
gonna fly over. So that there's some way that it's open where people can spray it like this, but that is the thing, it's like,
Railing's gonna have to be
windows of your
cleaned too.
house, yeah.
And
So-
will the city be doing the maintenance? Because we get very little maintenance over
Right.
this side of the
Yes,
bridge.
ma'am, so maybe this isn't a good one.
Yeah.
We'll cross this out.
Ellen, can you go back to the first rendering from the city, all the way back, right there? I like the openness, I like the sky. I don't think we should close it off at all. That looks elegant, it looks beautiful, just that whole vibe, and I'm like totally feeling that look as opposed to closed in and
And there-
especially when the community is like already like, they want it open, you know, so they can see what's going on, and it would still be beautiful, and then you could use the sides to put your art, you know, if you like, that was submitted off of whatever, you can put your art on the side, and so people walking through, there's
On
still
the
something to look at.
Like
Yeah.
moral, moral.
Those guys over here and Casey will be happy to hear that they put a lot of effort into making that look nice.
I love that.
It
I'm sorry, I
does
didn't
look
Well,
good.
and it doesn't have any steps in it, so
No.
a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old can't start climbing it, you know?
Oh, right, that's what you're saying about this, yeah, the
It's
safety
beautiful.
element.
It is.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, on the white banister,
This
what do
is-
you call them?
Mhm.
You could maybe leaving it open, I like that. Put the pictures from whatever pictures are chosen, the more, I can't say the word more.
Mural,
Mural.
uh-huh.
Mural, to adjoin it to the Brewer Center art.
Mhm. So there's multiple opportunities, even if we go
Even
closer to this,
on the
your images
grand
could be here,
Yeah.
on your rail, and these concrete things, they could be designed differently. It can still be made out of concrete, but you can do sculpted concrete.
And on
You
the
can have a
walk,
day.
some kind of design, do you do that on the walkway to lead to the Brewer Center?
Oh, on the sidewalk, that's what you're
Sidewalk.
speaking about?
Sidewalk.
Okay, let me go back this
One thing I know you could do there is the cap. The cap that is on top of the pedestal. If you put glass or resin
Mhm.
in a pattern around the top of that pedestal, then the light coming through it would drop patterns down on the pedestal. And that would not be something that required a lot of long-term maintenance.
Right.
It would be easy to clean
Okay.
and it would be very colorful.
We shoot for no long-term maintenance. Because as stated, it's difficult to get a lot of stuff done on that are installed.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. And you were speaking about this, is this what you're speaking about? This part?
Yeah, yeah, that too, but mainly the bridge, walkway bridge.
The bridge right here.
Yeah, there, artwork on the sidewalk and even leading to the Brewer Center. Do you do sidewalks? Like what cannot be destroyed or graffiti?
The probably the most durable and economical, it won't go. I don't know. Well, can you go back one slide? Go back.
It's like it's locked up again.
Oh, no, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, I'm headed to, the most economical is gonna be something like concrete stamping. So you know how some parts of the city, they don't actually put the bricks in the crosswalk, they just have a little, it's like almost like a stamp. And then that's what they do to make it look like bricks. That's the most economical thing, because then if the bridge surface does get grind up one day, this is something when they pour new concrete, they could just stamp, they don't have to throw the stamp away. It can still be kept. So that's something that you could use consistently. And just like on 9th Street, where you have those symbols, those could be stamped in the concrete, you know, if you want something that's consistent like that. But it just wouldn't be a color unless the concrete was all that color, like all green or all.
Oh, it can't be multiple colors on the concrete?
Not in a way that's gonna last as long as just either coloring all the concrete a color or, because I think they wanna pour the bridge surface at one time.
It gets difficult to start messing with a bridge deck. I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
it is terrible to try to think of what you have to do in order to get something like that done on the deck itself.
You live over there?
It's a logistic nightmare for the contractor.
Do you wanna share?
That I see happening in the future. I can't see that far ahead right now. Now, the railings that was close together, then you're not gonna have any kids calling
Railings, yeah.
and getting hurt
Right.
on
So
things
no-
like with the
no
big
overhead
one,
railing.
yeah. And then there are mosquitoes and things like that that comes from the canal now. And we very seldom get anybody to come over there and spray them. The city put down a lot of trees, and the leaves, we never get anybody to sweep the streets with the leaves. So, you know, when you have the walkway, you're gonna have a bunch of leaves and things that will have to be taken care.
Yeah.
So maybe, I mean, cause the Kansas wind, right? So
Yes.
railing, that's the trash that blows over the bridge. We don't want it to stop there. You want it to blow on through since it's gonna blow anyway. So not get stuck on the bridge.
The only other thing I would say is, like I was talking about, some kind of hardscape treatment, same thing, if you wanted to do something like stamping, that's more economical than the lithocrete, although lithocrete is awesome, it's expensive.
So maybe the stamping and the yellow areas and not all the way on the walkway.
You can make it, you can use something that flows throughout, so you can be like, I recognize this, I just saw this steps right here.
Yeah.
It just won't be like all the different colors, see what I mean?
I'll put it this way, Ellen Monique has a lot more opportunity than she has funds.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to do a lot of balancing of what she wants to do to make things look right to stay within her budget.
So, Ella, is there two questions? Is there an opportunity, speaking of funds, and I don't know if this is more of a hassle than it's worth, but getting the community involved in the painting of the mural or whatever it is that you're gonna do? I don't even know if it will involve painting, but is there an opportunity to engage community in the installation of the art or maybe a portion of the art piece? To build that buy-in, I mean, I know that there was some consternation in 2018 about
This is the thing
this.
that's done in a lot of other cities. I mean, there's a little town in Tennessee that built a dragon the size of this room using broken china from the households around the park. And they all came in and everybody got to place their little pieces and it made a mosaic. It was this huge dragon that the kids could then climb on. So it was a pretty fantastic thing.
So we've done a project before where we did a mural that had community engagement and the community helped to paint it. And that's certainly something that could happen. I wouldn't ask them to install it because they gotta
Yeah,
install
no, I'm.
right. But they could help paint
You know,
it.
like take a little stroke with the brush.
Yeah,
you know.
they can help paint it, absolutely. That could certainly
Thinking of
happen.
like pride of place in the sense of mattering and belonging, when you have a part in the process.
Yeah.
We talked about the community maybe feeling like this may not be something they want, and we know that it needs to be done, right? Like, how do we get their buy-in and build that relationship through this opportunity? And then the last thing I'd mention is if there is an opportunity to incorporate art that also, we know naturally like art therapy is a thing, but you know, with mental health and different things of that nature, if there's a way to incorporate an art piece or artwork that also assists with that, and also some sort of education, I think oftentimes a lot of people don't understand that great things come from their community. And we've had great leaders come from this community. And so if there's an opportunity to somehow connect that story through the art, and I think it can be done through something like this that's being displayed, right? Of different people from diverse backgrounds, maybe diverse leaders coming together. But those are the two things that I think really weigh heavy on my heart, particularly for this community, where the
Yes.
disparities are real.
There's an idea that I had, I didn't show it because I haven't worked it all the way out yet. But making each of these pillars represent somebody, you
Right.
know, like symbolically.
Absolutely.
So that each one of these are like a lot, they're a pillar.
Yeah.
And then it's not their face or anything, but it's something that represents them, right? It's attributed to them.
Kids walk through and they learn.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
I think, I'll go ahead and answer.
Uh-huh.
I'll make an announcement here before you answer your question, but make sure you go ahead and, if you have any more questions, sign up here and put your name and comments down there for Ella. And then we'll get those, I'll get them over to Ella. And then also, this will be going through the art board, Wichita, what's it? Design Council. And we'll make sure those dates get sent over here to the DAB. So we'll have to go once for the concept to the Design Council and then once for the final approval to the Design Council. And I'll get those dates so that they'll be able to go to your board here. You'll have an opportunity to come to those. Those are public, open to the public.
Just one quick question of you. So many places have done this thing where you can buy a brick as a memorial to someone. If you faced these pedestals with half bricks and let people buy them, it would be a fundraiser to get to do something that is more inclusive of the direct neighborhood. Is that a possibility?
I don't know about that public-private partnership. I don't know. Is it a thing? I have to ask.
I think at some point, we just gotta remember it's a pedestrian bridge and there's only so much money.
You're right, yeah.
I typically, for our construction schedule, I don't know how logistics would work on being able to do the outreach we would need to do and get it incorporated and everything in the time frame that we have. So I believe in order to accept donations like that, we have to have something set up through an agenda as well. I will check into it.
And
I
if
can't
it could
guarantee
be designed such that these bricks could be added the next year, then the fundraising could be done and whatever.
That might be something that would be
Maybe
better
part of the
off the
land-
bridge, like
maybe
in the
part of the
cul-de-sac or
landscape.
something.
Yeah, I mean,
Part of the
there could be an easy way to do that on like the plaza area, kind of next to the parking where you have there could be a lot of opportunity where it shows hardscapes or landscape for that type of stuff as well.
Yeah, and just touching back on that, because that goes back to what I was originally talking about trying to connect the park and the community and maybe trying to pull the park across the canal a little bit, is if on the east side, I'm reminded of several places along the Red Bud Trail that really kind of highlight the history of that part of Wichita and the people that come from that part of Wichita. And I think it's really effective in making those spots more than just a place where this bike path goes through. And it really kind of makes it an opportunity to stop and learn more about the area. And so if there, I don't know, I think if there was something like that on the east side, it might kind of pull the park across the canal.
I appreciate Luanda making us go back to that original concept, showing the open. And so going now talking about budget and looking at the bridge itself or even outside of the bridge. Do you, one, like I see the railing here, it's gonna be looks a lot shorter than like that Sycamore railing in terms of like how big of a mural you can do. But because it's lower, would there be enough budget to either mirror the mural on the inside for those going across the bridge as well on the outside, to have some of that art as well on the inside of the bridge where you're walking across it, to do both sides?
So you're saying traveling in both directions?
No, I mean, like, I know the concept we're showing for particular was like if you're driving by and you see it in the distance and you see the bigger mural. But for those walking across the bridge, yes, I see how you could do art along the pillars, the columns. But is there an opportunity to do maybe mirror that mural on the inside of the bridge as you're walking across to see that, which then makes it more connected for those particularly who are using the bridge, instead of just those on the outside looking at the outside railing of the bridge.
Right, so it would have to work where the bridge is gonna be like 150 feet. So if you're standing here, and you're about to decide, am I gonna walk across this, you would see the image. You'd see it because it would stretch the whole length of the bridge. Right? So, but then when you were standing on the bridge and you just turned like this, it would just look like a regular rail. It wouldn't have any, it would be on the inside.
Right.
Y'all have any more questions or feedback for me? Yes.
I just had a random idea based on what you were saying earlier. Could you go back to the lenticular mural, that one?
Oh, this one?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
At about half the height, I like the idea of having a lenticular mural across the bridge like that with an agreed upon design, and then devoting a couple of the panels to community art, to, I don't know, downtown, we have those boards that you can draw on with chalk or something like that.
Chain link gallery.
Usually, there's somebody that right, with that one, there's a nonprofit that maintains that and loves it and gets people to be involved and.
Maybe we
So
could
there would
get
have to
the
be
art
some.
council in on it.
Yeah, it'd have to be we love it and we take care of it and we change it out and here's how you can get involved, you know what I mean?
Somebody that's really active in the park all the time.
What'd you say?
Somebody that's really active in the park all the time adopts it.
Okay. That's interesting. You always ask the people who do chain link gallery, you wanna like help do the grid, so that's a thing, so I will.
It's Harvester Arts. I know they help a lot with that, and I think they actually like beg for people to reach out to them and like, collaborate. So
Yeah.
maybe a good
That's interesting.
opportunity.
It probably would, if it was something different here that wasn't lenticular, that probably would kind of make it hard to see this unless it was consistent across. But you could even have like one side is this and the other side just has this material, you know what I mean? So there might be ways to look at that. That might be good to draw up and check out. Thank you for your input. Any other
I
things?
think to his point, just the diabolical plan is to make this a destination park. Everything very unique.
All right.
You have your senior pictures taken here, like you
Oh,
and your kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Absolutely. Anything else you guys have for me? Well, thank you so much for giving me your input, your feedback. I value it, and I appreciate the minutes you give me of your time. All right?
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Don't forget to sign ups. And thank you all for being here and for letting us know when the design council meets. Thanks for all your work. Move to number 10, the CUP.
Okay. Be good.
Good evening, board members. My name is Brad Etherly, senior planner for the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. Okay. So today we are here to discuss case CUP 2024-00001, first CUP year. The applicant is requesting an amendment to CUP BP 156 to permit a kennel for boarding, breeding, and training on parcel 6. That's the name of the use there. The parcel is a 1.9 acre property and is generally located on the east side of North Woodlawn Boulevard, between 1 mile north of K96 Highway, specifically 3590 North Woodlawn Boulevard. I don't know if you can pull up the aerial. It should be coming up soon.
There's a church put in there, is that right?
I honestly am not sure. I don't know the area.
Sorry to share this.
Sure. So that's it right there in the aerial version. The applicant is requesting to amend the uses allowed on parcel 6 to permit the kennel, as well as waiver to supplementary use regulation 3P.6.K number 2, which states that outside runs, holding pens, or other open air type enclosures and shelters shall be located behind the front setback line, no problem there, and located at least 200 feet from any dwelling unit other than the owners, and at least 50 feet from contiguous property lines. And that's where getting to those issues. It's not gonna meet that 200 feet from the nearest residential unit with the apartments to the north. However, the applicant has indicated there will be a 30 by 32 enclosed area, approximately 110 feet from the nearest dwelling unit and behind the applicant's building. This works. So in this little space, kind of where the concrete pad is. And that's 4 dogs to receive about 15 to 30 minutes of exercise periodically throughout the day. This enclosure will be fenced in with a 7-foot privacy fence and will have turf laid down. Area will be washed down twice a day, and the use regulations state that if the fence is over 6 feet in height, plan shall be submitted for approval by the planning director and the zoning administrator. So CUP DP 156 is kind of this whole area right here. I think it even extends down a little bit. And it is zone LC, limited commercial. It is developed with all kinds of different offices, retail, restaurants, a gas station, convenience store, and car wash. To the north is zone MF 29, and it's got the apartments. And to the south is, if you can go to the zoning map. To the south is another CUP here with commercial uses and apartments. Is MF 29 with a church, and to the west is SF 5 with another CUP that has a park and a nature trail. North Woodlawn Boulevard is a paved 4-lane arterial street with sidewalks on both sides. And Wichita Transit does not provide regular bus service in this area. The site is served by municipal water and sanitary sewer. In 1994, the subject site was platted as part of the Valentine Addition. In 2004, the DP was established, and on July 13th, 2023, an amendment to allow vehicle and equipment sales for car rentals was permitted on parcel 3. I have to admit that I'm not exactly sure which parcel that is. If you can go to the future growth map, it should be directly underneath this one. Yes. You can see that the requested amendment is in conformance with community investments plan, which identifies the subject property as appropriate for residential and employment mix. Because the use of kennel, boarding, breeding, training is a less intense use and is bordered by multifamily use. It is an appropriate use for the area. Supplemental uses are designed to limit adverse effects regarding noises, visual blight, and odor. You can go to the site photos. Yep. So this is the space that they're looking to occupy right here. These are the apartments that are behind the area. This will be part of the area that is fenced off and used for a little bit of exercise. Scroll down just a little bit. This is looking west towards what is that street? North Woodlawn Boulevard. And then this is looking south to a car wash, and then one more scroll down, Maddie, please. And then this is looking east. This is a kind of a daycare center that is attached to the same building that they're requesting to use. And that's my report. Let me state our recommendation. We do recommend approval based on the information given to us, and that includes waiver to supplementary use regulation number 2, Article 3D.6.K. And staff has received no public comments on this application. And with that, I can stand for any questions, and I'm not sure if the applicant is in attendance.
On the MAPC letter, the conditions they put forward, did staff already propose those, or did they come over the top and now you'll update it?
So I think that are you talking about like no animal shall be harbored or kenneled? Yeah. So that went to MAPC already, and they submitted approval with those conditions.
And that was original staff recommendation.
Correct.
Any questions for staff before we check for an agent applicant or turn it over to the?
I only have a comment, and that was just that I have a friend that lives in the apartments across, and she never saw the sign for development or received a letter. Now, when I told her about it, she has no like her comment is it's fine.
Rent at the apartments and set something, those letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they went and drove around and tried to find the sign, like the development sign too.
I think the picture that shows, yeah, you'll see the sign right there.
Oh, okay.
In the window. So it was there when I went by to take pictures. I don't know how long it was
Yeah.
up. When they put it up.
I wish the owner were here to
I do too.
explain a little more about the process. A couple of things. Now, this outdoor exercise area, it says periodically throughout the day, and then I think you said it's gonna be turf and they're gonna wash it. Where's that washed water gonna go?
Sure.
And anytime I've been around these turf dog parks, you know, particularly that's kind of what they have on high-rise buildings and so forth. They stink to all get out, even though they're washed. So I don't know how they can say it's not gonna smell. 'Cause I think I read something here that says it can't smell,
Yeah.
right? And it will.
Sure.
I'm telling you.
I understand. Yeah, we still recommend approval. I understand that it probably is going to have some noise and odor issues, but I'm sorry.
Sanitation. When they wash all
Yeah,
that stuff.
And they will probably have to adhere to some environmental concerns when the building permit process goes through, because they will be changing the interior of that site to accommodate their space. So they will have to go through that process as well.
How do you enforce an odor at the property line?
Well, it's how we enforce everything. It's a complaint-based situation. So if anybody I mean, it doesn't matter if it's smell, noise, or you see that somebody's put up a 12-foot fence, you know. It's based off of the neighbors and the community members. Making a complaint to the-
And knowing the apartment is, if this does.
I am curious, like, my in-laws have a dog kennel.
Was the agent applicant at the MAPC meeting, and if so, is there anything that was shared during then that
Sure.
you could relay?
Yeah, so I'll admit that I was out of town at the MAPC meeting, so I just know that it went through consent. So if the agent, or the applicant was there, they didn't even really have a chance to speak, so.
Yeah, we are allowed, I believe, to, vote to postpone, for future meeting. We are allowed to do that as well.
Can you make a consent? They're,
Like
answering
to
questions,
do
I
a-
mean, I just have, more questions, but they're not here to talk about their vision, so then it's just up to my imagination, which runs wild.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it contingent. I would just say
Okay.
if you feel it that way, then when we get to making a motion, you could make a motion to delay to another, like next month with the request for the agent applicant to be there. You could do that.
Does this go to council on the second though? I
Uh,
thought I saw it goes to council on the second.
It is, scheduled, I would have to take a look and see.
I read somewhere it goes to council on April.
We did this before, so you have to
Yeah.
remind me what happens. 'Cause I know we did this once.
So. Man. Well, April 1st is before the 2nd, so it would, you could have it come back to DAB before council. That won't change it going to council on the 2nd, but it would give you another chance to hear it.
So yeah, let's make it clean. If you wanna give a chance to the agent applicant, you just wanted to. You could also like test the waters with the rest of the DAB to see where they stand, as well. But that does work with the dates. Yes.
I have a comment. Because I've never owned a pet in my life, so I don't really know about breeding and having kennels and training dogs. So I reached out to some people that do know. And the people that I've reached out to, one in particular, just has a issue that we euthanize so many animals, and to have a place that is actually breeding animals doesn't sit well with them. So I just wanted to share that comment.
Yeah, and I can tell you that this use is a broad use, that we have to kind of, the other use, is hobby, and that doesn't fit this type of, operation. So what they are planning to do is straight up kennel, housing, boarding. They're not breeding. They're not gonna be doing.
Oh, I thought I saw breeding and training.
Well,
It says it.
that's part of the use.
Oh, part of
It's a-
the
it's a
overall
broader
use.
use that this one is really just looking at boarding.
Can the DAB make a condition on that? An additional condition that it's just.
Yeah. you can-
So meaning then in the future, they can't expand into breeding and how I like.
They would have to come back to the DAB, to get approval on it. If that's what council
Yeah.
also passed, they would have to come back for approval for that specific use.
So you can put that in the
You would
documentation.
add that as a condition.
This would be, please.
Does the owner have another place here in town for Cause I looked it up and it looks like there's the same name. It's called the First Seasons Pet Resort.
Yeah, I do believe they have another, I don't know if they're moving or
Okay.
hoping to have a second location. I can tell you that I have seen a rendering of what their plans look like, and it looks pretty nice. At first, I didn't think it was a kennel. I was like, oh, it is a kennel, because it's got a cat dorm.
All right, today's applicant's not here. We'll give an opportunity for any members of the public to give feedback or ask questions on this. Any questions to staff? Yeah.
How much, did you say how wide the exercise area will be?
Yeah, the dimensions are 30 by 32. So it's a pretty sizable.
What were the dimensions again? I'm sorry, the dimensions again, please.
30 by 32. fenced off with a 7-foot fence. 5 to 6 fence.
How many dogs? Do you have any idea?
I don't think we,
Beagles?
I don't think we're gonna do it. Yeah, we don't regulate that.
Can't conditionally use that.
Schnauzers.
Anybody else from the public, online or in
Oh.
person?
Only thing, if I was next door would be noise concern.
How far away is it?
It is, if I remember correctly, it is about 150 feet from the nearest residential. 120 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Following up on that noise complaint and feedback, from the public was, you said it goes to the usual routes of complaints. Well, what if someone in those apartments complains about noise and odor and then the city sends someone out and they determine there's noise and odor? It's just, is there a time period then that the owner has to change their practices to come into compliance with that?
Sure. I honestly don't know the processes of any kind of complaint-based zoning situation. I have only been here for about 6 months and we are not directly involved with that portion of the overall kind of umbrella that we work in. So unfortunately, I have not gained that experience yet, but I do know that I think that it's fairly similar to the last place that I worked at. Complaint is made, MABCD sends out people to take a look at the situation. And if they feel it necessary to engage to remediate the situation, then they have their steps. And the applicant / owner is responsible for, remediating that. And then if they don't, then legal course.
Yes.
So are they asking for a zoning request only because that 200 feet is that?
No. So right now, the CUP does not allow kennel as a use. And so that's the amendment to the CUP is to allow the kennel. And then on top of that, the waiver is also have to be released.
If there's no more comment from the public, we'll just take it back to Dab, discussion, any motions.
I'm concerned about washing out. I don't know where that yucky water is gonna go. And it's, I don't know, do you have a photo that kind of shows again where that outdoor space is gonna be? I guess it's not, I mean, they're gonna have to wash out the indoor too. I wonder how they're gonna do that.
So this is the outdoor area. I don't think that there's any kind of drainage system like in place right now, like any kind of piping or anything like
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm wondering.
But again, I would be highly surprised if environmental wouldn't be taking a look at that.
But we make this approval before we kind of have all that information. And I don't know how environmental
Well, if they-
responds to things like this.
If they're running another site, they'd have to be aware that it's self-contained and would have to find a way to clean it out. They already have another clinic.
Unless it's not within limits in some other community.
What's the name of the place there?
Is called the First Seasons Pet Resort, and it has an address. That could just be the agent address. 3228 North Jeanette Street. So if that's, I don't know if that's where the property is at, that's just the agent.
That could be a home.
Could be a home.
Jeanette's over there like.
But that's the neighborhood. Right, is that? It's west
West
side.
of-
Yeah.
It's west of Broadway.
That's what I thought.
Midwest Street.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just looking it up to see if they
Yeah,
have
did
photos
you
of their
see
other
anything?
place. Yeah, they have an Instagram page. My data's just loading slow. Four and a half thousand followers on Instagram.
The boarding school?
Yeah.
Or it's
Their first season.
doggy daycare?
How many?
4,500 followers on Instagram. It's still loading, but it shows 4,500 followers for first year.
Impressive. Are they from Wichita?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, they're.
What
I
are the
believe that they are.
reviews? What are the reviews?
It's still loading.
But if we have to have a legitimate
Yeah,
reason,
it
I
has
think
to be
that,
based on.
I think that environmental is probably our only, because we don't have the answers. So where's the poop going? I don't even wanna know.
I think it's appropriate.
That's what that goes to your point about wanting the applicant here. I get that.
They would have to pick up too.
But it's washing the urine smell out of that too.
I'm sorry, my phone's not loading.
Should've got an Android.
Right?
It's the same.
This room is not
Yes.
friendly.
The iPhone.
We need stronger 5G cities.
So I see, sorry, it's still, I see the two pass, since the timing works out that we could table until the next meeting specifically and kind of expedite the discussion to focus on the agent applicant if they do show up. The other option, I think, based on feedback from Rwanda, which I'd be open to, is then if we do a motion to approve with the current conditions, we add a condition around to prevent breeding specific. So I see those, and that could still be the option that comes forward on the April meeting. But that's kind of where my gut read would be on what we could do here, especially since there's no feedback from the agent. No, I kind of understand, I guess, that the agent applicant probably not being as familiar with the process or doing this often, got approved on the consent agenda at MAPC, didn't have to say a single word, and then thought, oh, okay, I'll go to the council meeting then. I could see how that could happen.
And they don't have an agent working for them, they're
Doing it themselves, okay.
I'm not sure how to, I just request that this motion is delayed until the next meeting for table to the next meeting, that's all I can say, or
Yeah, you
hopefully.
can make a motion to table to the
Yeah.
April meeting with the strong recommendation
There you go.
for the applicant to be present.
Yeah, I request that this motion is tabled on the April meeting. The strong recommendation that the agent or applicant be present.
All right, and you're able to communicate that to the applicant?
We all have to second. I mean, is that a?
If it does pass, I'm just saying you will communicate that.
We would.
All right, I'll second that. So all in favor of tabling until the April meeting with recommendation for the agent applicant to be present for questions, say aye or put a positive sign. Aye. Any opposed? Not opposed. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Right. And with that, motion to adjourn.
Motion to stay here until midnight.
No opposition. Unanimous. Thank you for being here.
Well.